Hello everyone, and welcome to part 3 of my build of Dragon's Stug 4 late version in 1/35th scale with scratch built dozer blade. As you can see from this short video, I've done the weathering on the dozer blade itself, as well as the lower hull, the running gear and the tracks as well. So if you'd like to know how I created this look, then pull up a chair and let's do some modelling. So first off, the tracks. These are the Wyfield model ones. They give you a little jig that you're able to use, and as you can see, there's a little effect, or a little knobbly effect at the front there, so that you know which way you're putting your links each time that you use it. And it's just a matter of cutting them all off and cleaning them up using a sharp blade and a sanding stick. Once done, you just need to remember which way you're putting the links on, because you do have two different types of pins, one for the left and one for the right, and they fit into the jig very nice and snugly. And then it's just a matter of building up each of the links until you have 7 in total. And there we have them all done, quite straightforward. And then it's a matter of getting the pins and just gluing them and sticking them in each side. Now this is how they come out of the box. So some little bit of preparation to divide the, or should I say separate the 1 pins from the 2 pins. And like I say, make sure that you remember which side each one goes on. Now even though you're doing 7 links, you only need 6, because you're only going to be gluing 6 of the links. And as they come in strips of 9, you just need to cut off 3 of them. And when you do, put them to one side and make sure that you mark the sprue, either 1 or 2, depending on which one you've cut them from. And there we have it. Now when you do add the glue, I haven't used the extra thing because that seeps into the actual link itself. So I use standard Tamiya cement, and that way you can get a better fix. Leave that to dry, and as you can see, just put the glue on each of the ends so that no glue goes into the link itself. What you can do once it is all dry is just wiggle the links around a little bit, just in case some of them have stuck, and you can free them up quite nicely. And then once you put both sides of the pins in, just gently ease it off the jig and then just put it to one side to dry. Once it has dried, put it on a stepped surface, and just very gently, using a sharp blade, cut off the sprue. And then it's just a matter of getting the sanding stick and sanding the ends of those gently so you don't lose any of the detail of the pins. And there you have it, a nice fully working section of track. As you can see, with all the sections put together, you get a nice workable length of track. As far as the paint side goes, the black primer was added on the right side, and then Vallejo red hull was used on the left side as the base coat, and then it was a matter of just adding on sort of brick and concrete coloured pigments to give the effect of working within the rubble, and those pigments were then fixed in place using MIG's pigment fixer. And finally just taping off the edges of the tracks and adding some exhaust manifold Vallejo metal paint to represent the wear on the tracks, and that was replicated for the wear on the other side as if it was being driven down the road, and you can see that on the cleats there quite clearly. Really pleased how that all turned out. Next, turn my attention to the actual wheels themselves. First of all, we want to create some dust effects on the outside of the tyres. and using the oils from Winsor Newton. It's just a matter of applying it in a fairly liberal fashion onto the edge of the tyre using a round 2 brush. And then once that's done, just get a little piece of sponge and just gently blend it in, giving a nice effect, as you can see here, of a dusty tyre. Then what we do is add some onto the inner part of the tyre by the rim. And what the aim here is to just create some interest with some streaks and some more dust work. And that's achieved using this particular type of blending brush, putting it in thinner and then taking all of the thinner off so that there's hardly any on there at all, and then very gently going around the tyre, creating those streaking effects. And that's come out very well indeed. Now we have some damage to the tyres, which we did at the building stage, and they can now be highlighted using sepia, and that gives a dark effect, which will obviously contrast, as you can see, with the dust effect, and that's come out really well. Next, what I wanted to do was to do some shading with different reds, and as you can see, I'm just going through each one for you, and these will be added to the palette. And then you have a variety of colours that you can add to the wheels to create the shading and highlighted look that you're after. So first of all, I decided to go for the darker areas, and that would be down in the recesses of the actual wheel itself. And then once each layer of shading is done, it's just a matter of getting the hairdryer on there to dry it out, and then you can add on the next layer straight away. And in this case, I'm decided to add on a dust layer, and that will all be blended in with the blending brush. Again, then using the hairdryer, that will allow me then to add another coat of the reds and some more dust, and basically just build up the layers until you get the effect that you want. Now, as you can see, that's come out really well. So just loading up the brush with some more dark oils, and we'll just do a little bit of a pin wash on the nuts and the bolt heads. And that will give us the final look that we're after. And then later on, once the wheels are all put on, we can add some pigments and some more dust effects. So very pleased with how they've all turned out. As you can see, there's a couple of Dunkelgelb ones and some olive and one olive green one, just basically to break up the monotony of all the reds. So next what I did was turn my attention to the dozer blade. So mixing up some variety of lighter pigments and some thinners, and basically made a wash that I would then apply to the actual dozer blade itself, and just to create a base coat of streaks for which I can then add some oils to once dry. And that's come out really well, no issues there. However, on the inner side, wasn't such so pleased with the result, and because it is using thinner, it's just a matter of getting the brush with some thinner on and then you can just play around with it until you're happy with the particular look that you're after. Next up, we use some dark oils to create some shading work. Now, because I use very little thinner, there's no need to put on any type of varnish covering or anything to protect it. You can just go straight ahead and work on with the oils. So not only was the front done, but the reverse as well. And that's just the first shade of dark oils that we used. And then what I wanted to do was to add another layer of pigments. So I had a variety of colours, and it's just a matter of adding the pigments onto the dozer blade dry, and just again enhancing the look with different variety of streaking down the actual blade itself. And as you can see, a nice rainbow of colours was created, representing the different type of dust and that you'd expect to see in some city rubble landscape. Next, I used the filter and just added some onto the end of the knife there, and just using a brush, just flicked it on there, and that gives you a sort of speckled effect that fixes the pigments in place, and that's come out really well. Now it doesn't take too long for this to dry. I didn't use the hairdryer because obviously this part being scratch built, I was concerned about the heat melting the plastic. So it didn't take, as I say, long for it to dry, and then that enables me to carry on with the next stage, which is to do more speckling effects with different dust tones on the oils, and that was repeated obviously on the top and the reverse as well. Next, what I decided to do was to actually do some speckle effects with the actual pigments themselves. It's a very simple process of adding some particular pigment color that you're after, mixing it in with your pigment fixer until you get a consistency that is best described, I suppose, like a gloopy consistency. And then what you can do, again, the way you did your speckles with the oils, just get the edge of the knife, and then you can build up layers of pigments in this particular fashion. Again, different colors of pigments, and that will give the impression of some dried on dust and muck and mud. I did about 5 layers altogether. I wasn't happy with the final look, so I just added some more later on, and that's what this process is all about. If you're not happy with it, just leave it alone, come back to it another day and add some more until you achieve the final look that you're pleased with. Some of the pigments I just used a moist brush and just drew some of the spots of pigments down, which was quite a nice effect, like little streaks. I then added some rubble and some little bricks on top as well to give it that final detailed look. And all in all, that was all fixed in with UPVA glue, watered down. And like I say, overall I was really pleased with how the dozer blade was now looking. Here are some close-up stills so you can see the detail in better detail. Next I turned my attention to the lower hull, and it was very much the same process as before with the blade, laying down a layer of dust pigments and then splattering on the filter and then building up the layers. Altogether I did about 4 layers of dust work, and then once I was happy I did the oil paint rendering using dark tones and trying to get the greasy, dirty, grimy look that you can now see. And this was repeated at the front and at the back, and there were some streaks done as I went as well. Again, very pleased with how the lower hull was looking. Now, as this is a competition piece, it's very important that you do the underside of the model as well, because the judges will be looking at that. So, altogether, really pleased with how the build went together. The track links, there was 97 on each side. I have adjusted the sag a little bit because it doesn't look too good in this video. I went back and redone that, so pleased with how that's now looking. All of the wheels went on fine, no issues there at all. And now I've got a base for which I'm able to do all of the oil work on top using similar techniques. So that just leaves me to say thank you very much for popping in and having a look at this video. Hopefully there's been some helpful hints and tips that you can apply to your own builds. I'd like to give a special thanks to all of my subscribers and my continued support of my work. And happy modelling!